Welcome. This is yours truly, Charles Comer and James on the Over and Under podcast. James, how are you doing today?
We here, we living. We here on a what day is it? Oh, it's Wednesday. We here on a Wednesday.
We're here on a Wednesday, coming live and alive to you. We got a lot to talk about. After an exhilarating weekend last week, we had Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma pulls off the upset in Auburn. A lot of questions have to be answered on the ACC front. Miami wins in a very controversial call. Just a lot went on. A realignment going on. The Pac-12 and Mount West fighting over people. Is Travis? Damn, remember his last name? um, I forgot Travis' last name. That's a shame.
Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter. Apologize to me. It's been a day. But Travis Hunter, Ashton Gentry, Jalen Milroe, Cam Ward, are they the front runners for the Heisman? How do we feel about that? We have so much to give to you today, so much questions to answer for you today. As today is the questions need to be answered Wednesday. Kind of new segment we're doing. Top 10 questions from around the league and around the college football world that want to be answered. So we're gonna hop right into this, James. I got the number one question for you. Let's do it. Friday night, we got Oregon, your team, Oregon versus Michigan State, and then we have Syracuse versus UNLV. As we know, Oregon has had a slow start. They had trouble with, Idaho and Boise State, which had to go into overtime. And then Michigan State hasn't looked so hot. They lost to Ohio State last week. So for that game, kind of two teams one team coming off a bad loss and another team just, I wouldn't say barely scraping through, but definitely struggling to find their elite footing. And then the other game, you have Syracuse and UNLV. Syracuse taking a couple losses since they have that big win against Georgia Tech. They have their new quarterback, Kyle McCord, and his weapons over there with new coach, Fran Brown. And then UNLV. UNLV has been in the news, for their quarterback, Sluka. In Sluka, we trust, but obviously in Sluka, we didn't need. You may trust Sluka, but we didn't need Sluka, right? So they have their new quarterback, Harris, their new quarterback, Harris, who comes in from Campbell, the Campbell Camels from an FCS team, and does well. Everyone was riding for him. So Friday nights have been crazy, James. We had the Washington State game that ended in overtime with San Jose State a couple weeks ago. You had the Miami Virginia Tech game that ended in a controversial call last Friday. So, which Friday night game do you think will be better? The Oregon versus Michigan State or Syracuse versus UNLV?
Probably the Syracuse and UNLV game. I think that'll be more competitive. I don't think Michigan State has enough to keep up with Oregon. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think it'll be like the same thing that Ohio State had going into it. It'll be like 7-0, 14-0 going into the second quarter, and then that second half of the second quarter, Oregon will just run away with it. But UNLV and Syracuse, I think they're more evenly matched, even though UNLV is kind of it's undefeated right now. But I think they're kind of like in the same type of league. But I think UNLV will probably pull it out. I know we're not doing picks yet, but I think UNLV will run away with it. Obviously, they didn't need Sluka. He was just somebody to put out there. But UNLV is looking good. They're playing well. They're even with the loss of their quarterback, they look really well. So I think it'll be a close game between Syracuse and UNLV. I think Syracuse has a few more things to figure out, so I don't think they pull out this win, but it'll be close.
You don't think they pull out the win at all?
Nah,
At
not
all?
Syracuse. Nah, I think it'll be UNLV.
So if UNLV does pull out that win, that's one that's big for the program, right? Because you beat the ACC. Uh, I would say top contender for the ACC somewhat, because ACC is really, really weird right now. and then obviously be your second, your quarterback's second start, and you really didn't need Sluka, right? So that would be a good win for UNLV. But you know what would be a better win, James, is Michigan State to beat Oregon in the first Big Ten, the first Big Ten matchup. Oregon has to go. They have to go play, or Michigan State has to go to Oregon, so they got to go to Eugene. Um, who wears green better, right? Who has the better uniform? Yeah, you're sponsored by Nike, but Michigan State's green. It means more. I guess you can say that. However, as
I
optimistic
don't
as
think
I am,
so.
as optimistic as I am, Oregon wins. Not making a prediction. It could
Yeah,
go either way, but I think the Oregon Michigan State game may be a
that's
little
any
bit more.
game.
I think it'll be a little more interesting though. So
Mm,
if
whatever you
Oregon
say,
lo-
I don't think so. But
if Oregon loses, you're not gonna be able to live that down, right?
that's fine.
Hey,
I don't think they are though.
nah, I don't think they are either. But wishful thinking, right?
That's crazy.
Uh,
Wishful thinking.
so number one question, we got that out the way. So we're gonna say that we kind of split. You think the UNLV game, Syracuse will be better. I kind of think the Michigan State, Oregon State, or Michigan State, Oregon game will be better. So we'll go on to our second question. James, can South Carolina and Arkansas pull off the upsets this week? So you have Arkansas going to play. Excuse me, Arkansas playing Tennessee. Tennessee has to come to Arkansas, right?
Hmm.
Nico and them coming off an off week, went down to Norman, whipped that ass, came back to Tennessee, and now they got to go to Arkansas. But then on the other hand, you got Ole Miss who just came off a bad loss. Kentucky hadn't beat Ole Miss since the 1940s, 60s, and then you go play South Carolina, who needed an off week, right? They went and played Akron, trash Akron, 50-70, but they didn't have Lenore Sellers, right? So Lenore Sellers is probably coming back. We already know that Dylan Stewart on the edge, absolutely crazy. The freshman, the South Carolina defensive line. We saw what Kentucky's defensive line can do against Ole Miss as they disrupted Jackson Dart. Sorry, they disrupted Jackson Dart. They were 1 for 13 on third downs. That ultimately lost them the game because the defense can stay off the field. They're tired. They're giving up points to a mediocre Kentucky team, right? So, do you think that South Carolina can pull off the upset and Ole Miss? Remind you, it is October, and you know what they call October in South Carolina? They call it Cocktober. That's just what they call it.
Hey yo.
Hey, don't pause on big pause, but I mean that's just what they call it. You know what I mean?
All
So
right.
South Carolina, Ole Miss, and then Arizona and Tennessee. You think they can pull off the upsets? Arkansas and South Carolina.
I think more South Carolina than Arkansas. South Carolina's defense is just that good, and if Sellers is coming back, he does just enough for them to put them over the edge, especially being a dual threat. But Arkansas, I just don't think they can keep up with the offense of Tennessee. They may be in it for like a half, but I think Tennessee ends up running away with it. They don't have that type of caliber defense to keep themselves in the game throughout the whole thing. Um, Tennessee is just way too good. What game was it where Nigo kind of struggled? I forgot who they played. Was it
Oklahoma. It was Oklahoma.
Oklahoma?
Wasn't it?
Okay,
Or you can
so
say NC State because he threw a couple of turnovers to NC State.
okay, but yeah, it's the Oklahoma game though for sure. That he didn't play as he usually played, but they played well enough to pull out the win over Oklahoma. Oklahoma has a solid defense, and I don't think Arkansas has that type of defense to throw Nico off of this game like Oklahoma did. So I lean more towards South Carolina beating Ole Miss just because Ole Miss is already coming off an upset from Kentucky, and Kentucky's defense is solid, but I don't even think it's on the same caliber as South Carolina's defense. So It could be
Really?
scary for Ole Miss. Yeah, that's just in my opinion. That's just me. But yeah, Ole Miss they might be looking at 2 L's unless they get that offense firing.
Do you think South Carolina's offense looks scarier than Vandergriff and Kentucky's offense with Lenore Sellers as a quarterback and not Henderson?
Yeah, I think so. Just because he can run, he rushes for at least like 80 yards a game. So I think he can do that better than what's his name, Vandegrift. But I don't know. It's just that's kind of like weird because Vandegrift can't run very well, but at the same time, like in my mind, they're kind of like the same type of quarterback. It
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense, but it makes sense in my mind. But I think Sellers just like that much better just because he can move, he can run. But I mean, he throws what like he just got a buck 60 and like maybe 2 touchdowns or so, just enough to move the offense and let the defense run the whole game. So that's why I think South Carolina is just mm, dang. It's tough to say. I don't want to say that much better than Kentucky, but they're a a tad bit better than Kentucky.
I think they have a better running game with Rocket Sanders back there.
There you go. That makes
The
more sense.
Kentucky
Yeah.
has. So that dual threat with Lenore Sellers and then Rocket Sanders, and then I'm not saying anyone on the perimeter is scary for South Carolina, but
No.
they can get after you, but there's no one like I can highlight to say that's scary, you know. So yeah, um, I, when we make our selections Friday, I got a little parlay for you. I want you to go ahead and bet on. You feel me?
You want me
So,
to bet on it? That's
yeah, I want you to
crazy.
bet. I want you to bet on. I'll bet with you. You feel me? If we lose together, James.
Put
We
you
lose as
put
a pod.
20 and 20 and we'll see what's up.
20. Okay, yeah, we could do 20-20. That works out. That works out. All right, so go ahead and put a pin in that. But I got this next question. I'm gonna kind of explain to you, James, that why I think this game is more important than the last week's game. So, last week we had Bama and Georgia, the tale of the two Titans, right? We know that Bama came out, absolutely obliterated Georgia's first half. Georgia comes out second half, puts Bama in a dizzy, and then Bama's like, "Oh, okay, I guess we'll just go ahead and win this game," right? Absolutely crazy. Now we know that Bama has a path to go forward to make it to the SEC championship, and we know that Georgia can't make any more minor um, slip ups, and they got a really tough schedule. They still got Texas, they still got to play Ole Miss. So those are some tough games for Georgia that they're gonna have to play. They still got to play South Carolina also. But James, the Missouri Texas A&M game may be more important than last week. All right, so hear
Okay.
me out. Missouri has been underwhelming as a program after coming off a really 10-win season last year, right? And you got Luther Burden, Brady Cook comes back, right? So you lose Cody Schrader as your running back, but you've had a good depth, right? You weren't really worried about that. It's a transfer portal era, so you can get a running back, but uh, you struggle with Vanderbilt. You're fighting in the fourth quarter with Vanderbilt, who hasn't really been. They've been better with Dave Pavia, but they haven't been the best, right? They're still losing games. They're close, but they're still losing games. And then on the other hand, you have Mike Elko, right, who takes over for Texas A&M, comes in. You got Connor Wigman, you got Le'Veon Moss. You got a great defense that's played up to a great caliber after the Notre Dame game because, as you know, they lost the Notre Dame game. But this is a statement game because your schedule doesn't get easier. As we know, Texas A&M has to play Texas. They still have to play. They still have to play Arkansas. Have to play South Carolina. Same thing with Missouri. They still got to play Georgia. They still got to play Bama. Right. So Texas A&M has already had its slip up, right, going into this game. They were in the first game of the season. Missouri hasn't, but they've looked very underwhelming. So that's why I say the kind of this game is more important because this game could be one of the bubble spots on the college football playoff, right? We say the SEC. Most people say the SEC will get in 4 or 5 teams, right? This could be on that 4 to 5 team bubble because you got Bama. I think Bama gets in, Georgia gets in, Tennessee gets in, but then out of what Ole Miss, Missouri, Texas A&M, and then Texas gets in, right? So that fifth spot, kind of that bubble, because more than likely Texas, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama are going to lose another game. Just how it goes. It's a tough conference. So how you feel about that with me saying that's a more important game? Like, do you feel that way? Do you feel like I'm way overhead over heels, or what do you think?
No, that makes sense now that you explained it. I was sitting there, I was just like, but that makes sense. Um, who's the rest? Oh, let me look at it. I had it right here actually. So, A&M, they have Mississippi State, LSU, South Carolina, New Mexico State, Auburn, and then Texas at the end of the year. And then
Missouri's got Auburn, they got Bama, they got Oklahoma, they got South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Arkansas still in conference play. So I
okay,
you could say Missouri can have a slip up, but if you have a slip up now with this game, who that says you don't have another one against Bama, who's looked pretty good. If Auburn can stop committing turnovers, they'll look better. South Carolina's defense is stout. Oklahoma, stout. You feel me? So who can
see,
afford a slip up?
I think I really think A&M can. They have a tougher schedule going forward than Missouri, and Missouri hasn't been spectacular as it is already. They're undefeated, yes, but they haven't looked like this powerhouse that everyone was expecting going into the season. And A&M, I feel like some people were, thinking A&M was gonna do A&M things and lose a couple games, but here they are 4-1, and they lost a tough game against Notre Dame. So with that, I think A&M has a little bit more wiggle room just because they have a little bit of a tougher schedule. And I see Missouri losing to Alabama, possibly Oklahoma, and also South Carolina.
I don't see
So
South Carolina. I want to see that.
nah, I can see it. I can see it. You've seen them play. They haven't been. They've been super underwhelming.
Yeah,
Barely scraping by Boston College. Barely scraping by Vanderbilt. So I don't know. I don't know if Missouri has the capabilities. Well, that's not a good word for it. I don't know. I'll just say it, the capabilities to beat Alabama and to get over the Oklahoma defense and the South Carolina defense. Unless they just, their offense just takes off and they figure it out how to fire on all cylinders. But I haven't seen it so far besides, the lesser teams that they played of Murray State and Buffalo. But
yeah.
a
I could run
Boston,
100 yards on Murray State. You know.
yeah, so Boston College 27-21, Vanderbilt 30-27. So I don't know if Missouri is good as everyone thinks they are. And then A&M with the quarterback change, they've looked a lot better. Their defense is still solid. Only real test going forward is Texas, and then who was the other one?
LSU.
Who?
Would you? I
Oh,
would say
LSU. Yeah,
LSU.
yeah, LSU.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Would you start Connor Wigman if he's available over Marcel Reed right now?
I would just go with the hot hand.
So you would stay with Marcel Reed?
Yeah. Until he starts looking bad out there, I would just keep running with the hot hand.
Because Marcel Reed kind of gives you an extra page in your playbook, right? Because
Yeah.
he's mobile. And Connor Wigman kind of gives you I don't not an extra page or maybe a couple plays because he can pass. I think he's a better passer, but I don't think he's a better decision maker and not as mobile as Reed for sure.
Yeah, I think Reed is more of a better decision maker, and he can get around say a sack that's about to come on, or like get that 3rd and 5 or whatever when the play breaks down. And I think that A&M needs that
Mm-hmm.
to get over these next few games and stuff. But like I said, if he starts looking bad, then yeah, cool. Like pull him, put what's his name back in,
Wigman.
and go from there. Wickman, yeah, and see what he can do, because then maybe the game shifts. You change that type of play calling, and now you have a passer out there, and the defense don't know how to. They haven't been scouting for him the whole year, the whole week. They've been scouting for Reed, so it could help. But I think for right now, I would just run with the hot hand with Reed.
I agree. And speaking of running with a hot hand, we'll go ahead and cool that off. But our question number 4, James. Now, shout out to my Texas Tech folk. You know what I mean? Shout out to Lubbock people. You feel me? I was once, down there, a long, long time ago where I first met James. James was a pimp. You know what I mean? No, I was kidding.
Oh,
James was
don't
a
stop.
pimp. I was just kidding. I was
Relax.
kidding. But you got Arizona coming to town, James. It's a night game. Now, look, I'm 0-1 of picking night games against Texas Tech. I will say that. They showed me up. I thought Cincinnati had it in them, but obviously Texas Tech, that night game, Texas Tech is something different. It's spooky in Lubbock.
Mm.
You know what I mean? But you got Fafita. You got an agenda coming to Lubbock with a great wide receiver, and he's actually using more of his wide receivers. Conley had a great running game um, last game. So really, what I want to know is not who would win, but James, do you think that Arizona and Texas Tech can break the total offensive record for most yards in the game? Now, look, the record for is originally with Texas Tech versus Oklahoma in 2016 for 1,700 yards of recorded offense. Do you think that? Yeah, that's absolutely insane. Do you think that Arizona, Fafita, and McMillan can go to Lubbock and beat Texas Tech basically in their own game, or have as many yards and break the record? It's a
Oh man,
shootout now. Texas Tech is
yeah.
guns up. You feel me? It's a shootout.
Texas Tech, the last 3 games, they've dropped 44, 30, and 66. Excuse me. Um, and Arizona, they're not light with throwing the ball either. So this could be a 60-62 type of game. I Tech has no defense. Arizona, they have maybe slightly a defense after coming off of that win against Utah. I don't know yet until I got to see how they're gonna look against Tech, because Tech's gonna air it out regardless, and then Taj is gonna get 100 yards on the ground.
I don't think he
So
will. I think this is the
this
game.
is the game.
This is the
This is the
game.
game.
This may be the game that a prop that comes up for Charles. Not getting 100 yards for Taj.
Really.
No, I'm just kidding. I would never do that. Let's
I
bet
about to
money
say
against
that
that.
man. I think he has a streak of 100-yard games going into last year.
Sheesh.
I want to say, I'm not, don't take my word for it, but I want to say it. He's had 100 yards since last year, like every game. But Morton, he's slinging that thing over there at Tech, and then Fafita, of course, you got McMillan. I don't know who's even covering McMillan at Tech, so that man
Exactly.
might
That's what
have.
that's one of the things I wanted to bring up. Who is covering McMillan at Tech?
Yeah, so that man might have another 300-yard game or something for all I know. We say all this and watch it be like a defensive struggle, but
Right.
I don't
It'll be
see
like
it.
22 points scored.
Yeah, but I think it's gonna be a shootout for sure. I don't know if they'll break the record, but they'll be close. I think they'll get close, but I don't even want to pick. I'm not even picking anybody right now. I just want to see how this game is gonna go, because it's just gonna be an offensive shootout, and I think I may actually watch this game just to see them just go back and forth.
Yeah. I thought about watching this game. It's on my slate to watch. But it's a late. It's gonna be late. It's gonna be late, late, late. You know, I might have to be at church in the morning. I'm still praying that Alabama won last week. So,
Are they not playing in Lubbock?
yeah, they are playing in Lubbock. It's a late night game though. I think it's 8:30.
Oh, it's a
Yeah. So you might go. You know, you might get see.
no, it's in Arizona, bro.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Look at me. I'm telling you, I'm off this week. I'm off
Oh,
this week. You feel me? But yeah.
I was like, do I have to go to Lubbock this weekend? But it's in Arizona.
Well, hopefully, they can break that record. Hopefully, it can be an exciting game. And when we come back Sunday, we can talk about like, yeah, Big 12 has no defense. You
Mm-hmm.
know, no defense at all. So, all right. So leaving Lubbock, kind of going to the east. Duke. We got to talk about Duke, man. 5-0. Um, got a brand new quarterback. Texas transfer Malik Murphy. Um, had a tough game last week, down 21-3. Um, against North Carolina, comes back and beats them 21-20.
Told you the game's
So
gonna be close.
a great comeback once again. Like we talked last week, I told you I think Duke could put the dagger in Mac Brown's coaching tenure, and I think last week that comeback against a rival was the dagger. We'll keep a closer eye on that. But James, does Duke have enough firepower to beat Georgia Tech? We're talking about the same Georgia Tech that beat Florida State, which Florida State's not really anybody. I mean, let's go ahead and like say that, right? Like, I just want to make that clear. But they lose to Syracuse to Kyle McCord, and then they lose to a pretty good Louisville team that lost to Notre Dame. But what do we think about Georgia Tech and Duke? Do you think Duke's got enough firepower?
I think Duke has enough. Malik Murphy's been looking really good. He like you said, he struggled against North Carolina, but before all that, he's been looking solid. I think Georgia Tech will make it close, just because Georgia Tech they play really well on offense. They do a really solid job on that side of the ball, but I just don't think their defense can slow down Malik Murphy and the Duke offense. And if he plays, like he's been playing the whole year, besides this North Carolina game, I believe they'll win. I don't see Georgia Tech really beating them at all. But there's always that chance that he has the same type of game like he did against North Carolina, and Georgia Tech sneaks one out. But I think Duke goes undefeated for a while. When's the next like big game for Duke?
Really, SMU, I guess you could say, in October.
So
I wouldn't say Florida. I wouldn't say Florida State.
They play Miami.
They play
So
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech, Miami. I can see maybe 2 L's right there. But until those 2 games, I can see them staying undefeated. Maybe
SMU.
SMU. Maybe
I was going to
SMU.
say SMU. Come on,
But
put some respect on the Methodists, James. If we respect the Mormons,
but I
we
mean
gotta respect the Methodists.
I'm just saying because SMU they've looked good and they've looked bad. And I think they finally figuring out what quarterback they want to run with and everything. So I don't know. I'm looking at SMU right now and I'm just like,
We'll
you
get
drop
to
you
SMU
drop.
next. We're getting to SMU next. Just tell me, Duke remains undefeated, or they win at Georgia. I want your prediction right now, actually.
For Georgia Tech game.
Yeah, Duke,
Oh,
Georgia Tech.
I picked Duke for
You
sure.
pick Duke.
But I'm talking about SMU when they get to SMU, because SMU they put up 59 first game of the season. They lose 18-15 to a good BYU team, 66 against TCU, and then 42 against Florida State. And then this coming week they got Louisville. So I want to see how they play this Louisville game, and then I can tell you how far Duke is gonna go till they lose a game. They could stumble against SMU, but I just want to see how SMU plays against Louisville first. But Miami, for sure, that's probably an L.
I
And
don't
then
know. I don't know.
I don't know, but I think it could be. And then what was the other game I said?
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, I think they might win, but the way Virginia Tech played Miami, they could be sneaky. So it could be L, but I think for sure they stay undefeated until Miami. But I'll come back to this after SMU plays Louisville, and then we can talk about it. And I'll give you a solid prediction.
All right. Well, appreciate that for you knocking out two questions with one. You feel me? So I guess my next question was if SMU had enough, aura to win against Louisville. But since you talked about SMU, we'll go ahead and skip over that because we got a big change at Florida State, right? As reported earlier this week, DJU um, has a hand injury that's going to keep him out probably for they say 4 to 6 weeks, but I think they're the rest of the season they don't want DJU to play quarterback at Florida State. So we got Brock. Oh, Brock. Brock won the ACC championship last year against Louisville, right? And he played in the Orange Bowl against Georgia where they got absolutely slaughtered. But he played, right?
Yeah,
James, here's why I'm happy and here's why I'm mad. I'm happy because I think it gives Florida State a sense of rebirth, like a sense of joy. Like, all right, you said DJU was the problem. We've all been saying DJU was the problem. We knew
yeah,
there were other problems on the team, but you said the main reason DJU was the problem was, your offense was DJU. So you're gonna get Brock to come in. You're gonna get Brock to come in and be the quarterback. Why are you throwing him against Clemson? Why did we make the change against probably the number one defense in the ACC against Clemson? That's out for blood. You didn't want to play them in the COVID year. They're gonna run up the score on you. Cade Klubnik has looked well. You feel me? They held Georgia scoreless in the first half when they played them in the first game of the season. They got their ass whooped in the second. You feel me? But they played Georgia pretty well. Why start him now? Why not 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when DJ was looking like Grandpa from Courage the Cowardly Dog? Like he couldn't do nothing. He moved slower than a skeleton on Halloween. I can run an RPO faster than that. I promise you. So that's my dilemma. Why now, James? Like what position? What does that say about you as a coach to put your redshirt sophomore or redshirt freshman into a big game like this when you could have been prepping him and could have? They had an off week. Remember, they had the
yeah.
off week before. I forgot who they played, but they had an off week. You could have prepped him then. You could have got him comfortable with the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Like why now?
I don't really have an answer for why now. I think it's more just they're scrapping the season. I think they're just we're gonna go ahead and play the guy that we're probably gonna have as our starter next year, unless we get a transfer or whatever. But I think it's more just we're done. Like we're not making a playoff berth. We gotta win out, and a lot of people gotta lose to even make the ACC championship. Why do we need DJ still playing? He hurt his finger. All right, cool, whatever. Let him walk next year, draft or whatever he's gonna do.
So
Go ahead.
insurance. That's those gonna be selling.
But I think it's just more like we're scrapping the season. Let's see what our redshirt freshmen can do, and let them see if we can ride them out the rest of the season. Just because, what else are we gonna do? Right? We're gonna keep playing DJ and keep losing these games and just looking the same as we did at the start of the season. While we can just go ahead and throw in something new and see if we can get some momentum to see what we will look like for next year. And I think it's along those lines of just let's get ready for next year with this quarterback. Even though they should have probably, if they wanted to save the season, they should have threw him in earlier, like you
Right
said.
after Georgia Tech, I would have thrown him in.
Yeah,
I'm telling you right now, especially after Boston College. You 2 games down. Okay, cool. Clemson lost one. Miami probably lose one. You feel me?
yeah,
I can at least go to the ACC championship.
yeah.
I may get in as a 10-2 team, but hey, this is what the playoffs are. I get an automatic bid. It is what it is.
Yep.
But now you just throw them into the dungeon and say, hey, come out either with the lion's fur or come out ripped up, with scratches on you.
And I think it's just they're giving up on the season and just calling it and just riding this dude out and just hopefully like they can knock out some wins, maybe upset a few people, but Florida State, for me, it looks like just Florida State's just all right. Well, we tried. On to next year. That's how I see it, but I don't know. I could be wrong. DJ may
So
come back for all I know.
if DJ comes back, if Brock is playing well, maybe he didn't even have to play well. If he's playing decent, and they put DJ back in, and DJ costs in the game, that may be Norvell's job. Because listen, what really might be Norvell's job, James, going into next year, just to skip ahead a little bit, because I've been thinking about this. What if Brock is not well? Are we trusting Norvell and his staff to bring in another transfer quarterback when you brought in DJU this year? The first game next year is Alabama. You play Alabama first game next year. You already started off with a loss to Georgia Tech last year. The year before that, you beat LSU in the opener. That was a good win. You beat Jaden Daniels, but you're 0-1 right now on transfer quarterbacks. The year before that, you didn't go to the college football playoffs because your quarterback got hurt, and you didn't have a backup that was decent enough to convince the committee to put you in over a one-loss Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
So, do I trust you? If Brock looks bad, do I trust you to bring in another quarterback?
You're gonna have to. If that's what you want to do and go back into the transfer portal and get another quarterback, you're just gonna have to trust it. I don't know what quarterbacks are, ready to transfer for next year. That's a conversation down the line, but you might want to start looking at people and scouting to see what you want to do. Or if you're gonna start a freshman coming in next year, you better hope he's really good. Or you know what, go down to Florida and see if Lagway want to get up out of there.
Hey, I can tell
See,
you what I'd be doing. I would have called Lagway and be like, "Look, whatever they're paying you, I'll double it.
yeah,
Double it." But
get down
that's
there to
more
Gainesville and see what he feeling like. Hey, bro, what you want? What? Put a price on it, and we'll get you over here to Tallahassee.
ASAP.
Yeah.
But there's more off-season talk. We're going to get to our last question, James. Michigan. They don't have a passing game. All they can do is run with Alex Orji and Mullins, right? Edwards hasn't been the best running back. He kind of lost running back one position. They got to go play Washington. Well, Michigan. They got to go play Washington, right? Can Michigan get their second loss here? Is Washington decent enough to give Michigan their second loss? Now,
Hey.
look, Washington lost a close game against Rutgers, which Rutgers looking pretty good this year, I might say.
Yeah.
But there's no Michael Penix. There's no star offensive line, right? But on the other side, there's no J.J. McCarthy over there, right? The only thing they got over there is a running back in a corner. You should not throw to his side. Do not throw to that corner. Will Rogers. You win the game if you don't throw interceptions. That's how I look at it. So, do they have enough juice? Do they have a good run game with Coleman to beat Michigan?
It'll be close, but I think Michigan is still really solid on defense to put them over the edge over Washington. But I think it'll be a decent game. It'll be a close game. But I don't see Michigan dropping the ball here. Not yet. The run game is still solid. I think they still have a little bit to go before they start dropping games because that's all they can do is run the ball. But I think against Washington, it'll be close, like I said. But I don't think Washington has enough to beat Michigan.
I think they have enough to beat Michigan. I just think that the mismatch is really big because you look at Michigan's defensive line. against Washington's offensive line, and you got two NFL tackles in the middle, right?
Yeah.
So, or NFL defensive tackles in the middle, and you got Washington. I don't know if anybody of their offensive line has been talked about or brought up in conversations with NFL. I don't even think they're eligible, right? Not they're small, but they're not tested,
Mm-hmm.
and this will be their first big test. Will William Howard be able to stay back there and throw the ball, right? Or will they be able to run the ball with Simmons? We don't know. However, what I do know is Michigan is not passing the ball. We can put 8 in the box. I think we'll be okay, right? For sure, we could put 7 in the box. We put 7 in the box, and we get into that interior of Michigan's offensive line. Their exterior is pretty good, their tackles, but that interior, if we could get in there and make some mishap and get some sacks, we might pull this off, man.
Uh,
We might pull it off. Michigan's got to go on the road, man. They got to go on the
well,
road.
Michigan, the last two games, 27-24. So I mean, they've played super close games the last two games. Maybe Washington's the one that uh, pulls one of these games out, but I don't know. I think Michigan is still a solid defense, and I mean, yeah, load the box. That's cool, but nobody's really stopped it yet. These last few games, not talking about like Texas or anything like that when they didn't have an identity, but the last two games they've been running it down people's throats and been pulling it out. They beat a good USC team, and they played Minnesota last week, but they still won.
Cheated Minnesota, by the way, because that definitely an onside kick thing was crazy.
But yeah, I think Michigan, they have one more in them. They got one more in them before they start losing games.
I need them to lose this game, and then we just start rolling down the hill because I'm
Yeah.
tired of them still being in the top 25. I'm tired of them. We're still last year champ. No, you're not, bro.
Yeah.
You're not.
I think
Your quarterback threw for 35 yards. You think you're winning a national championship with your quarterback throwing for 35 yards?
no, definitely not.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't agree with them being in the top 10 or anything like that, but I think they're okay. They're a good team. Maybe 24, 23, maybe somewhere around there, but top 10 is crazy. It's just, because they're coming off of a national championship or whatever, and they beat
The
USC.
preseason rankings, yeah.
And since then, they haven't looked the best besides these last few games, and they started just, we're not throwing the ball anymore, just been running it. But like I said, this game, I think they pull it off, but then after that, I think it's just loss. But we'll see.
Well, hopefully we do see that upset. Well, not even an upset because I think Washington is favorite. So hopefully we see that game come to a conclusion where Michigan doesn't lose. So that's all the questions I do have for the questions that need to be answered Wednesday. James, you got anything hot, fresh off the press? You got anything cooking over there on the donut line? Nothing. Yeah.
Well, I'll just ask you this because it was written in here in the notes. But can Baylor upset Iowa State?
Oh, I did forget to ask that. No,
yeah, I was looking at the notes.
Absolutely not. Baylor cannot upset Iowa State. Absolutely not. Baylor's listen. Any team that loses to Colorado and BYU back to back, that is tough. You kind of got your I don't want to say your whole spirit broken, but you kind of got part of it broken when you took that loss to Colorado, right? Hail Marys happen, as we see. Hail Marys have happened commonly. But then you went to BYU, and BYU got the, and I don't know, man. I don't think you have any fight left in you. You think they got fight left? Because I don't think they have any fight.
Baylor's been in all these games.
Yeah, but Iowa State beat Iowa, right? A pretty good Iowa team, great defensive team. Not great offensively, but a great defensive team, and they were able to pull it out. They smacked Houston 20-0. It's Houston. Baylor's coming off 2 losses, right? Iowa State is coming off a bye week. They've got the rest. You really think they're gonna go to the Cyclones' house and beat them?
Are they playing over there? Or are they playing in Waco?
They are playing in Iowa.
I don't know. Maybe. Oh dang, Baylor's 2-3. I didn't even know that. They've been in
Two
all
and
these games, but they're 2-3. That's crazy.
lost to Utah, lost to Colorado, lost to BYU.
They're losing all these close games. That's hate to see it. They so 23-12 Utah, 38-31, 34-28. And those some close games. Yeah, I think it'll be another type of BYU situation. Iowa State will go up early, and then Baylor's gonna be like, "Oh, you know what? We can throw the ball," and then they come back and
It's too late.
it's too late. It's too late.
That's kind
So
of their identity, right? It's too late. You
yeah,
can't. You gotta have a fast start. Um,
that's their thing. I don't know why, but that's their thing. Makes no sense to me. Remember when Baylor was an early favorite for you? I remember that.
past, we don't much talk about the past. You know what I mean?
I'm just saying.
It's crucial these times when you talk about a team you put on a pedestal, and they don't even get knocked off. They just jump off themselves. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Yeah. So
a lot of these games they should have won.
exactly.
But well, on to what I was gonna ask you. So Clemson, they came off of that Georgia game, lost close. Well, first half close. Now they're on a tear. Does Clemson come out, jump in the playoffs, and make a run, or is it just an ACC thing and they're just running through their conference?
I mean, look who they played. Appalachian State. Okay. North Carolina State, who has a freshman quarterback, CJ Bailey, um, took off the gas. Most of those points you see 35 came in trash time. 40-14, they go handle their business against Stanford. Right now, the only thing I will say is this is their first actual away game. I wouldn't count the Georgia away game because it was a neutral site. So they got to go to Florida State. Florida State has a new rebirth. Florida State, Wake Forest, Virginia, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Pitt, Citadel, South Carolina. No Miami, right? They don't have to play Miami, and that's big. However, I'm still on the you need a couple transfers to come in. You may not have needed them now, right? Because you
Mm.
these average teams. But when we get to these, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Pitt, because Pitt's undefeated right now, especially South Carolina, you're gonna wish you had some real dogs when you play South Carolina. And that's the last game of the season, so everybody's in full form. No, I don't think they go to the college football playoffs. I don't even think they're in the bubble. Um, I do think they go to the. I think they're in a tie for the ACC championship with
Mm.
somebody to go play Miami. I don't think they'll be a contender or go to the playoffs.
Oh, just you've been high on them, so I was just curious if you thought they
Whoa,
was
whoa,
about
whoa! Who
to.
was high on
Nah, nah,
Clemson?
nah, nah.
Whoa,
Every
whoa, whoa,
week
whoa!
it's been like, oh, Club Nick looking
Whoa!
good. Club Nick this,
Club Nick hasn't
Club
looked
Nick
good.
that.
We got to give Club Nick. We got to give the quarterback, some praise. Everyone was
All
so
right,
down on him, including me, but I gave him some praise. You know what I mean? Little
I'm
pick
just
me up.
saying. I'm just saying, cause it's just every after that Georgia game, you're like, hey, maybe it's over for Clemson, but now
Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not.
I don't know. They haven't, like you said, they haven't played anybody, so I don't know. Anyway, uh, on to back. Oh, where'd my notes go? Oh, these gonna have to come off the dome now because they just disappeared. Anyway, I
Yeah,
know what the
yeah.
next question was. They just disappeared. Back to Iowa State real quick. So, do you think Iowa State is the Big 12 favorite, or are we still sticking with BYU? How are you feeling?
I think it goes Kansas State, Iowa State, BYU, and then there's a gap, and then you have like Colorado and all those teams. So I think they're in contention, yeah, for sure, to be the top of the Big 12. The Big 12 could go either way, man. We don't know. Kansas State could just run the tables from now on. Iowa State can run the tables. BYU can lose every game from now. Colorado can win every game from now. Highly unlikely. You feel me? But like it's just so much that could go on in the Big 12. We don't really know.
Mm. But what do you feel? You gonna say Colorado, aren't you?
Listen, Colorado to the Big 12 championship.
I knew you were gonna say that shit. I knew you were gonna say that.
Colorado to the Big 12 championship. James, look, they're not gonna play their best game every game. There's gonna be some games that are gonna have to be like the Baylor game or like the North Dakota State game at the first of the season. But improvement. There's no backtracking this year. Last year there was a lot of backtracking. There was improvement, and then we fell back. You look at the after the Nebraska game, you look at the Baylor game, you look at the UCF game. Now you got a bye week. You got a Kansas State game coming up at home. All you've seen is improvement. Kansas State, same thing. You've seen improvement. Iowa State gradually. BYU, it's just been like, hey, we here for the vibes. Like this is just what we're here for. But I'm not counting out Dion, man. I'm not counting
I
out.
didn't say you had to. I was just asking
I'm not
what you
counting
felt.
out. I know it's a lot of haters on this pod, about Colorado, but
That's crazy. Last question, because since my notes disappeared, and those are the last two that I saw before they all just went
crazy.
poof. I don't know where they went, bro. Like I was just looking at them and they were gone. But who do you think at this point of the season can maybe lock in that 12th spot? And we're talking about like not Power 5 schools, but like just a North Texas or someone like that caliber. Or even if you think those type of teams will even get that 12th spot. What do you feel at this point of the season? I'll probably ask you this another month from now or so, but right now.
Boise looks good, man. How do you stop Gentry?
Yeah.
No one's been able to stop him. The game where he had like 120 rushing yards, they just took him out because it was against Portland State.
Mm-hmm.
They don't rate that many mistakes. Their defense leads the college football of sacks, right? So how do you stop Boise State? You just don't. If you got to go play in their field, you're dizzy, right? So I see Boise State really making that 12th team. But UNLV is looking nice. And they got a little chip on their shoulder with all the media attention. So if that's the MAC, right? The MAC conference game to see who goes, I'm fine with it. But let me just tell you right now, even with Boise State losing one game, they need to go. If Liberty goes to the freaking playoff with their weak ass schedule and they didn't lose a game, I'm rioting. I might boycott watching that game. We might even mention them. Might send a nice letter to Liberty saying, you know what, get your weight up and your cake up. Cause y'all they're not, the committee has to tell them no. They have to treat them like Florida State. Yeah, you went undefeated, but you don't look good. No. We're not putting you in this 12 team, the first 12 team playoff, and you're gonna get blown out by Clemson, if the Clemson make it. Right? You gotta go to Clemson's territory also. So the first games are at the home team's stadium.
Yeah.
So yeah. So put Boise or UNLV in, even if they got one loss. Keep Liberty and whoever the other shenanigan teams that don't want to schedule anybody out. I don't care if you're undefeated. Cry about it. Florida State did, and now they're 1-3. So
yeah, but gotcha. We'll see. Like I said, down the line I'll probably bring up this question again. But we're in what, week 4? So
week 5.
We'll see. Week
No,
5.
Week 6.
Well, shit, I don't know what week it is.
Yeah, we're week 6.
Anyway, anyway, I'll ask you again down the line.
All right. All right, people. We appreciate y'all coming through today. That's gonna be it for the Over and Under podcast. James, you got anything for the people?
Keep subscribing, keep checking us out. Appreciate y'all for coming in every week. So just thank you.
All right, this is Charles James Over and Under podcast. We are out. Thank you.